The rise of Augustus. How one man ended the Roman Republic and created the Roman Empire. Part 1. Rome before Augustus. By the middle of the 1st century BCE, the Roman Republic was tearing itself apart. For nearly 500 years, Rome had been governed by elected magistrates, a senate of aristocrats, and assemblies of citizens. The system had turned a small city-state into the dominant power across the Mediterranean. But the very success of Roman expansion created conditions that made the traditional republican system unworkable. The problem was fundamental. Rome's armies conquered vast territories, creating enormous wealth that flowed into the hands of a small elite. Traditional Roman farmers, the backbone of the citizen militia, found themselves unable to compete with slave labor on massive estates. Many drifted to Rome itself, where they became a volatile urban population dependent on grain distributions and susceptible to populist politicians. Meanwhile, ambitious generals discovered that loyal armies could be powerful political tools. Soldiers cared less about abstract republican virtue than about land grants and rewards from their commanders. The final century of the Republic became a succession of civil wars. Marius and Sulla had already demonstrated that Roman armies could be turned against Rome itself. In the 70s and 60s BCE, powerful men like Pompey and Crassus accumulated extraordinary military commands that gave them leverage over the Senate. When Julius Caesar emerged as a brilliant general conquering Gaul, he joined Pompey and Crassus in an informal alliance historians call the First Triumvirate. This arrangement bypassed normal republican institutions entirely. After Crassus died fighting the Parthians in 53 BCE, the partnership between Caesar and Pompey collapsed. Caesar's refusal to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen triggered civil war in 49 BCE. His famous crossing of the Rubicon River with his legions was not just symbolic, but practically treasonous under Roman law. Caesar defeated Pompey and his senatorial supporters, pursued them to Greece, Egypt, and North Africa, and returned to Rome as undisputed master of the Roman world. Caesar's dictatorship, however brief, revealed how hollow the Republic had become. He held multiple consulships simultaneously, received permanent tribunician powers, and eventually accepted the position of dictator perpetuus, dictator in perpetuity. He planned extensive reforms, redistributing land, reorganizing the calendar, settling veterans in colonies, even reforming the Senate by adding his own supporters. But his assumption of quasi-monarchical power terrified traditionalist senators, who remembered that Rome had expelled its last king 5 centuries earlier. On the Ides of March, 44 BCE, a group of senators led by Marcus Brutus and Gaius Cassius stabbed Caesar to death at the foot of Pompey's statue. The assassins believed they were liberating the Republic. Instead, they guaranteed its destruction. Caesar's death created a power vacuum that plunged Rome into another round of civil wars, wars that would only end when a single man accumulated enough power to make further conflict impossible. Sources ****. Ronald Syme, The Roman Revolution **pp. 127. Adrian Goldsworthy *Augustus, First Emperor of Rome *pp. 2356. Plutarch *Life of Caesar chapters 57-69. Suetonius *The 12 Caesars Julius Caesar chapters 76-82. Part 2. The Young Octavian. When Julius Caesar died, his great-nephew and adopted heir was an 18-year-old named Gaius Octavius, later known as Octavian. He was born on September 23, 63 BCE, into a prosperous but not particularly distinguished family. His father, Gaius Octavius, had been the first in the family to reach the Senate. His mother, Asia, was Caesar's niece, providing the crucial connection to one of Rome's most powerful families. Octavian's childhood was marked by poor health. Ancient sources describe him as frequently ill, physically unimpressive, and prone to various ailments throughout his life. Yet he received an excellent education in rhetoric, literature, and philosophy, studying with prominent teachers in Rome. Caesar took interest in the young man, bringing him on military campaigns and allowing him to participate in his African triumph in 46 BCE. Most significantly, Caesar included Octavian in his will, not merely as a beneficiary but as his adopted son. Under Roman law, this adoption made Octavian Caesar's legal heir, entitled to use the name Gaius Julius Caesar. The will also left 3/4 of Caesar's vast estate to Octavian, with the remainder designated as a gift to the Roman people for public parks. When news of Caesar's assassination reached Octavian, he was in Apollonia, across the Adriatic, preparing to accompany Caesar on a planned Parthian campaign. His family urged caution. Returning to Rome meant entering a dangerous political maelstrom where Caesar's assassin still held power, and where Caesar's lieutenant, Mark Antony, had already positioned himself as the dictator's political successor. Octavian ignored the advice. He crossed to Italy and made his way to Rome, immediately claiming his inheritance and his adoptive father's name. Ancient sources suggest that experienced politicians underestimated this sickly teenager. Cicero, the Republic's greatest orator and a senior statesman, famously quipped that Octavian should be praised, raised, and erased, honored, elevated to undermine Antony, then discarded once he had served his purpose. This proved a catastrophic miscalculation. Octavian demonstrated immediate political acumen. He paid Caesar's bequests to the people from his own funds when Antony delayed transferring the inheritance. He cultivated Caesar's veterans, who remained loyal to their dead commander's memory and recognized Octavian as his rightful heir. He presented himself as the dutiful son seeking to honor his father and punish his murderers, a message that resonated in a society that placed enormous value on family piety. Within months, this inexperienced young man had raised a private army and positioned himself as a major player in Roman politics. He was helped by circumstance. Antony's heavy-handed treatment of the Senate created enemies who saw Octavian as a useful counterweight. But he also showed remarkable skill at reading situations, forming alliances, and understanding when to compromise and when to strike. Sources **. Anthony Everett Augustus, The Life of Rome's First Emperor * pp. 2167. Suetonius, *The 12 Caesars * Augustus, chapters 113. Cassius Dio, Roman History * book 45, chapters 1-3. Nicolaus of Damascus, Life of Augustus * chapters 6-18. Part 3, Struggle for Power. The political situation after Caesar's death was extraordinarily complex. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal subordinate and fellow consul in 44 BCE, initially seemed the natural successor, but Antony's position was weaker than it appeared. Caesar's assassins, led by Brutus and Cassius, controlled significant military forces and claimed to defend republican legitimacy. Octavian represented Caesar's name and legacy. And numerous other powerful figures, including Marcus Lepidus, commanded legions and had their own ambitions. The first 2 years saw rapidly shifting alliances. Cicero, hoping to destroy Antony, persuaded the Senate to grant Octavian imperium, official military command, and send him with the consuls to fight Antony in northern Italy. The campaign of Mutina in 43 BCE ended with Antony's defeat but both consuls dead. Octavian, now commanding a victorious army, marched on Rome and forced the Senate to elect him consul despite being far below the legal age of 42. This moment reveals much about late Republican politics. The Senate, which had opposed Caesar's autocracy, now granted extraordinary power to a 19-year-old because they feared Antony more and believed they could control the young man. They were wrong. Octavian recognized that defeating Caesar's assassins required more resources than he alone commanded. In November 43 BCE, He met with Antony and Lepidus on a small island in a river near Bononia. There they formed what historians call the Second Triumvirate, formally established by legislation as a commission for restoring the Republic. Unlike Caesar's informal arrangement with Pompey and Crassus, this was an official magistracy granting the three men supreme authority for 5 years. The triumvirs immediately launched proscriptions, death lists targeting political enemies whose property would be confiscated. This was not impulsive revenge but calculated policy. They needed money to pay their armies and wanted to eliminate potential opposition. Ancient sources record 2,000 equestrians and 300 senators marked for death. The most famous victim was Cicero, hunted down and killed on December 7, 43 BCE. Antony, whom Cicero had viciously attacked in his Philippic speeches, displayed particular vindictiveness, ordering Cicero's head and hands nailed to the speaker's platform in the Forum. Modern historians debate the extent of Octavian's responsibility for the proscriptions. Ancient sources sometimes portray him as reluctantly accepting Antony's demands, but this seems like later propaganda. The most reliable evidence suggests all three triumvirs enthusiastically participated. Octavian's great-uncle, his adoptive father's murderers, and hundreds of wealthy Romans died to fund the triumvir's war machine. In 42 BCE, the triumvirs transported their armies to Greece to face Brutus and Cassius, who had raised substantial forces in the eastern provinces. At Philippi and Macedonia, 2 battles decided the war. The first engagement was inconclusive, with Brutus defeating Octavian's forces while Antony crushed Cassius's army. Cassius, believing all was lost, committed suicide. The second battle 3 weeks later ended in complete victory for the triumvirs. Brutus killed himself, and the main Republican resistance collapsed. The triumvirs divided the Roman world between them. Antony took the wealthy eastern provinces, where he would raise money by taxing the region and handle relations with Parthia. Octavian received the west, including the difficult task of settling veterans on Italian land, a process requiring land confiscation that would make him deeply unpopular. Lepidus, the junior partner, received Africa. This division would shape the next decade of Roman history. Sources *. Ronald Syme, The Roman Revolution *pp. 112-161. Adrian Goldsworthy *Augustus, First Emperor of Rome pp. 89-142. Appian, The Civil Wars Book 3, chapters 93-98. Book 4, chapters 138. Cassius Dio, Roman History Book 46-47. Velleius Paterculus, Roman History Book 2, chapters 61-71. Part 4, War against Antony and Cleopatra. After Philippi, Antony appeared to be the dominant partner. He was an experienced general, personally popular with the troops, and controlled the wealthier half of the empire. Octavian, by contrast, faced multiple crises in Italy. Veterans demanded land. Antony's wife Fulvia and brother Lucius stirred up opposition that led to the Perusian War in 4140 BCE. Sextus Pompey, son of Pompey the Great, controlled Sicily and threatened Rome's grain supply. Octavian survived through a combination of ruthlessness and assistance from his friend Marcus Agrippa, a military commander of exceptional ability, who would prove crucial to Octavian's ultimate success. Gradually, Octavian stabilized his position in the west while Antony became increasingly involved in the east. Antony's relationship with Cleopatra VII of Egypt would prove his undoing, though not for the romantic reasons popular culture suggests. Cleopatra was the last of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a sophisticated ruler who controlled Egypt's immense wealth. She had previously allied with Julius Caesar, bearing him a son called Caesarion. When Antony arrived in the east, an alliance with Egypt made strategic sense. Cleopatra could provide money and resources for his planned Parthian campaign. Antony could offer military protection and recognition for her regime. The relationship became personal as well as political. Antony spent the winter of 4140 BCE with Cleopatra in Alexandria, and they eventually had 3 children together. But Antony's eastern entanglement gave Octavian an extraordinary propaganda opportunity. Roman tradition viewed Egypt with suspicion, an ancient monarchy antithetical to Roman values, associated with luxury and effeminacy. Cleopatra, as a foreign queen wielding power in her own right, represented everything conservative Romans feared. Octavian's propaganda machine, managed by talented supporters, portrayed Antony not as a Roman general pursuing legitimate strategic goals, but as a man bewitched by an Oriental seductress, squandering Roman resources, betraying Roman values, and planning to make Alexandria the capital of the empire. The fact that Antony conducted official ceremonies in Alexandria, made territorial grants to Cleopatra's children, and lived in royal splendor with the Egyptian queen gave Octavian's propagandists ample material. The final break came in 32 BCE when Octavian obtained Antony's will, possibly illegally, from the Vestal Virgins and read it to the Senate. The will reportedly confirmed Antony's eastern arrangements and requested burial in Alexandria beside Cleopatra. Whether the document was authentic or forged remains debated, but it served its purpose. Octavian persuaded the Senate to strip Antony of his powers and declare war on Cleopatra, carefully avoiding declaring war on a fellow Roman. The war was decided at sea. Agrippa, commanding Octavian's fleet, established naval superiority through superior tactics and seamanship. On September 2, 31 BCE, the fleets met at Actium off the western coast of Greece. The battle's details remain disputed. Ancient sources describe a major engagement, but modern historians note that relatively few ships were destroyed. What is clear is that Cleopatra's squadron withdrew during the battle, Antony followed her, and the remainder of his fleet surrendered. His army soon defected to Octavian. Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Egypt, but their position was hopeless. Octavian methodically pursued them, and in August 30 BCE, as Octavian's forces entered Alexandria, both committed suicide. Antony died by his sword, the traditional Roman death. Cleopatra's death by asp bite, though iconic, may be legendary. Ancient sources suggest snake venom but aren't certain. Octavian had Caesarion killed, eliminating a potential rival who could claim to be Caesar's biological son, but spared Cleopatra's children by Antony. The significance of Actium cannot be overstated. It ended the civil wars that had devastated the Roman world for decades. It brought the eastern provinces firmly under Roman control and added Egypt, the Mediterranean's richest kingdom, as Octavian's personal domain. Most importantly, it left one man in undisputed control of the entire Roman state. The Republic, in any meaningful sense, was finished. The question now was what would replace it. Sources **. Adrian Goldsworthy *Augustus, first emperor of Rome *pp. 187-278. Cassius Dio Roman History books 48-51. Plutarch Life of Antony chapters 50-87. Velleius Paterculus Roman History Book 2, chapters 82-87. Christopher Pelling Plutarch and History pp. 240-289. Part 5 Becoming Augustus. When Octavian returned to Rome in 29 BCE, he faced a delicate problem. He commanded overwhelming military force, controlled Egypt's wealth, and had no serious rivals. But Romans hated monarchy. Julius Caesar's monarchical pretensions had cost him his life. If Octavian openly declared himself king or dictator, he risked the same fate, or at minimum, endless resistance from the senatorial aristocracy whose cooperation he needed to govern effectively. Octavian's solution was brilliant. He would hold supreme power while appearing to restore the Republic. In January 27 BCE, he appeared before the Senate and dramatically announced he was laying down his extraordinary powers and returning control of the state to the Senate and people of Rome. This was political theater. The Senate, filled with his supporters and dependents, immediately begged him to continue directing the state. After appropriate reluctance, Octavian agreed to accept a proconsular command over Spain, Gaul, and Syria for 10 years. These provinces, notably, contained the vast majority of Rome's legions. The Senate also granted him a new name, Augustus, meaning revered or illustrious. The name had religious overtones, suggesting someone blessed by the gods but crucially avoided monarchical titles. He became Imperator Caesar Augustus, imperator being the traditional acclamation for a victorious general, not yet the title emperor in the later sense. This constitutional settlement of 27 BCE was refined in 23 BCE after Augustus fell seriously ill and nearly died. He gave up the consulship, which he had held continuously since 31 BCE, but received tribunician power for life. This was legally ingenious. The tribunes had traditionally been champions of the common people with powers to veto legislation and protect citizens. By holding tribunician power, Augustus positioned himself as the people's protector while gaining legal authority to intervene in virtually any aspect of government. He also received a special form of imperium, supreme military authority, that overrode other governors' imperium even in provinces he didn't directly control. Combined with his tribunician power, this gave him authority throughout the empire while maintaining the fiction that he was simply a magistrate with exceptional but technically republican powers. Augustus carefully cultivated the image of restoring traditional values rather than innovating. He called himself princeps, first citizen, suggesting he was merely the most distinguished senator rather than a monarch. He claimed to have found Rome brick and left it marble, investing in public buildings that glorified Rome's traditional gods and heroes. He lived, or claimed to live, with relative modesty, avoiding the ostentatious luxury that had made Caesar unpopular. The Senate continued to meet, debate, and pass legislation. Magistrates were still elected annually. Provincial governors administered territories, but everyone understood the reality. Augustus's approval was necessary for any significant action, and his military power ensured his will prevailed. Some ancient writers recognized this clearly. The historian Tacitus, writing a century later, acidly noted that Augustus had seduced the army with gifts, the people with grain, and everyone with the allure of peace. Modern historians debate how to characterize Augustus's regime. Some, following Ronald Syme, see it as a revolution disguised as restoration, in which a military dictator established monarchy while cynically maintaining republican forms. Others note that Augustus genuinely attempted to work within constitutional frameworks, however much he stretched them, and that his system proved remarkably stable and effective. What is undeniable is that Augustus created a new form of government, neither pure monarchy nor functioning republic, that would endure for centuries. Sources **. Werner Eck, The Age of Augustus *pp. 3061. Ronald Syme, The Roman Revolution *pp. 313-330. Cassius Dio, Roman History, Books 52-53. Res Gesti Divi Augusti, chapters 34-35. Augustus Suetonius, The 12 Caesars chapters 26-28. Part 6, Building the Roman Empire. Augustus's political settlement provided a framework, but transforming it into a functioning imperial system required decades of administrative reform. He reorganized virtually every aspect of Roman government, creating structures that would define the empire for centuries. Military reform was fundamental. Augustus reduced the massive armies that had fought the civil wars from around 60 legions to 28, eventually settling on 25 permanent legions. Each legion numbered approximately 5,000 professional soldiers serving 20-year terms. This created a standing army, a revolutionary change from the citizen militia tradition. Augustus established fixed rates of pay, standardized equipment, and created a military treasury funded by special taxes to provide retirement bonuses. Perhaps most significantly, he created the Praetorian Guard, 9 cohorts of elite soldiers stationed in and around Rome. Officially bodyguards for the emperor, the Praetorians would become kingmakers, eventually wielding enormous political power. Augustus positioned them as defenders of the state, but they were clearly his personal force, ensuring no rival could threaten him in the capital. Provincial administration was rationalized. Provinces were divided into 2 categories. Senatorial provinces, theoretically under Senate control, were governed by proconsuls in the traditional manner and contained few troops. Imperial provinces, under Augustus's direct authority through legates he appointed, contained the legions and frontier zones. Egypt received special status as Augustus's personal domain, governed by an equestrian prefect, with senators forbidden even to visit without permission. Augustus conducted the first comprehensive census since the late Republic, registering citizens throughout the empire. This provided data for taxation and military recruitment while demonstrating the reach of imperial authority. Tax collection was reformed. Augustus gradually replaced the notorious publicani, private tax farmers who had exploited provinces ruthlessly, with salaried imperial officials in the imperial provinces, creating a more regular and less corrupt revenue system. Infrastructure development was massive. Augustus boasted of building or restoring 82 temples in Rome alone. He constructed new forums, theaters, baths, and basilicas. The Ara Pacis, Altar of Peace, commissioned by the Senate in 13 BCE, became an artistic masterpiece celebrating Augustus's achievement of peace. He divided Rome into 14 administrative regions with local officials, improved the city's water supply through new aqueducts, and established vigils, a combination of police force and fire brigade. Road construction throughout the empire facilitated military movement and trade. Augustus established the cursus publicus, an imperial courier service that allowed messages to travel quickly across vast distances. Milestones marked distances, and posting stations provided fresh horses. This communication network was essential for controlling far-flung provinces. Economic policies promoted stability. Augustus standardized coinage throughout the empire, facilitating trade. The end of civil war allowed normal economic activity to resume. Mediterranean piracy, suppressed by Pompey and kept down by imperial naval forces, no longer threatened merchant shipping. Peaceful conditions and good infrastructure encouraged trade between provinces, creating economic integration that complemented political unity. Augustus's administrative genius lay in creating systems that didn't depend entirely on his personal supervision. He established permanent administrative structures, staffed by a mix of senators, equestrians, freedmen, and slaves, creating what would evolve into the imperial civil service. While far smaller than modern bureaucracies, this administrative machinery provided continuity regardless of who held power. Sources *. David Schotter, Augustus Caesar *pp. 4278. Adrian Goldsworthy, Augustus, First Emperor of Rome *pp. 353-401. Werner Eck, The Age of Augustus *pp. 89-145. Suetonius, the 12 Caesars Augustus, chapters 28-49. Cassius Dio, Roman History, books 53-55. Part 7, Family, Succession, and Personal Life. Augustus's personal life was marked by a contradiction. He promoted traditional family values and moral legislation, while his own family was plagued by scandals, tragedies, and succession crises that would haunt his entire reign. He married 3 times. His first 2 marriages were brief political arrangements. His third marriage, to Livia Drusilla in 38 BCE, endured until his death. Ancient sources paint Livia as intelligent, politically astute, and deeply involved in imperial affairs. Later writers accused her of various crimes, including poisoning potential heirs, but these allegations likely reflect misogynistic assumptions that a powerful woman must be malevolent. What is certain is that Livia was Augustus's trusted partner, advising him on matters of state and managing her own extensive network of clients and dependents. The succession problem dominated Augustus's later years. He had no sons and desperately needed a clear heir to prevent civil war after his death. His solution was to create heirs through adoption and marriage alliances within his extended family, but death and scandal repeatedly destroyed his plans. His daughter Julia, from his second marriage, became a political pawn. Augustus married her first to his nephew Marcellus, whom he clearly intended as his successor. When Marcellus died suddenly in 23 BCE, Augustus married Julia to his closest friend and general Marcus Agrippa, despite Agrippa being much older. This marriage produced 5 children, including Gaius and Lucius Caesar, whom Augustus adopted as his sons and designated heirs. Meanwhile, Augustus promoted moral legislation that seems almost hypocritical given his family's behavior. Laws penalized adultery, encouraged marriage and childbearing among the upper classes, and restricted divorce. Augustus presented these measures as restoring traditional Roman virtue, but they were deeply unpopular and frequently evaded. The hypocrisy became public when Julia was exiled in 2 BCE for adultery. Ancient sources describe numerous affairs, possibly including some with political motivations. Augustus, as her father and as the sponsor of anti-adultery legislation, had no choice but to punish her severely. She was banished to a small island and forbidden wine and luxuries. Some historians suggest the real issue was political conspiracy rather than mere sexual scandal, but the sources are unclear. Tragedy struck again when both Gaius and Lucius died young, in 4 CE and 2 CE respectively. Desperate for an heir, Augustus turned to his stepson Tiberius, Livia's son from her first marriage. Augustus had never particularly liked Tiberius and had previously passed him over, but he was capable, experienced, and available. In 4 CE, Augustus adopted Tiberius while simultaneously requiring Tiberius to adopt his nephew Germanicus, attempting to keep multiple succession options available. The arrangement worked, but it reveals Augustus's fundamental problem. He had created a system of personal rule without establishing clear, constitutional succession mechanisms. The empire depended on having a capable individual at its head, but no legal procedure existed for transferring that position. Augustus tried to solve this through family arrangements and gradually transferring powers to his chosen heir, but this remained improvised rather than institutional. Future emperors would face the same problem, often with violent results. Sources **. Anthony Everett Augustus, The Life of Rome's First Emperor ** pp. 216-298. Barbara Levick, Tiberius the Politician ** pp. 1342. Tacitus * Annals * Book 1, Chapters 3-5. Suetonius * The 12 Caesars * Augustus, Chapters 61-65. Cassius Dio * Roman History, Books 54-55. Part 8 Culture and the Golden Age. Augustus understood that political power required cultural legitimacy. He deliberately cultivated writers, artists, and intellectuals who would articulate a vision of renewed Rome under his leadership. The result was what historians call the Augustan Golden Age, a flowering of Latin literature and art that would define Roman culture for centuries. Gaius Maecenas, Augustus's wealthy advisor, served as the primary patron for poets and writers. Maecenas supported Virgil, Horace, and Propertius, among others, providing them financial security to pursue their craft. This wasn't disinterested generosity. These poets produced works that supported Augustus's political program, though with varying degrees of subtlety and genuine artistic independence. Virgil's Aeneid, begun around 29 BCE and still unfinished when Virgil died in 19 BCE, became Rome's national epic. The poem tells how the Trojan hero Aeneas, fleeing Troy's destruction, traveled to Italy and became the ancestor of the Romans. The work connected Rome to the ancient Greek heroic tradition while presenting Roman history as divinely ordained destiny culminating in Augustus's reign. Anchises, Aeneas's father, prophesies future Roman glory in the underworld, specifically mentioning Augustus as one who will bring a golden age. The poem celebrated traditional Roman values, duty, piety, sacrifice, that Augustus claimed to embody. Horace produced poetry ranging from lyric odes to satirical epistles. His Carmen Seculaire, performed at Augustus's secular games in 17 BCE, explicitly celebrated the emperor's achievements and the new age of peace and prosperity. Yet Horace also wrote more personal, reflective poetry that wasn't merely propaganda, achieving artistic sophistication that transcended immediate political purposes. Livy began his monumental history of Rome during Augustus's reign, recounting Rome's story from its legendary foundation to his own time. Livy portrayed early Romans as exemplars of virtue, implicitly contrasting their moral strength with late republican corruption, and suggesting that Augustus represented a return to ancestral excellence. The work reinforced Augustus's narrative that he was restoring rather than revolutionizing Rome. Ovid represented the limits of Augustus's cultural control. A brilliant poet whose Metamorphoses retold Greek and Roman myths with wit and sophistication, Ovid also wrote the Ars Amatoria a playful manual on seduction that mocked Augustus's moral legislation. In 8 CE, Augustus exiled Ovid to Tomis on the Black Sea for reasons the poet described as a poem and a mistake. The exact cause remains unknown, but the exile demonstrated that even under a relatively tolerant emperor, there were boundaries artists crossed at their peril. Architecture and visual arts promoted Augustus's message. The Ara Pacis featured relief sculptures depicting Augustus, his family, and senators in solemn procession, presenting an idealized image of harmonious cooperation between emperor and aristocracy. The imagery emphasized peace, prosperity, and piety. Augustus's Forum, with its temple to Mars Ultor, Mars the Avenger, commemorated his victory over Caesar's assassins, while statues of Roman heroes from Aeneas onward suggested continuity between legendary past and Augustan present. Religious revival was central to Augustus's cultural program. He restored temples, revived ancient priesthoods, and emphasized his own role as Pontifex Maximus, chief priest. This wasn't mere cynicism. Augustus seems to have genuinely believed that Rome's success depended on maintaining proper relations with the gods. The secular games of 17 BCE, celebrated to mark the beginning of a new saeculum or age, combined religious ritual with political theater, suggesting that the gods blessed Augustus's rule. Augustus's cultural legacy proved remarkably enduring. Later Latin literature would look back to the Augustan period as a classical golden age, a standard of excellence against which subsequent works were measured. The political message embedded in Augustan culture, that peace and prosperity under strong leadership surpass the chaos of liberty without order, would resonate throughout European history whenever intellectuals sought to justify authoritarian rule. Sources Karl Galinski, Augustan Culture pp. 341, 225-287. Jasper Griffin, Virgil pp. 67-89. Peter White, Promised Verse, Poets in the Society of Augustan Rome pp. 2367. Ovid, Tristia *, Book 2. Suetonius, the 12 Caesars * Augustus, chapters 89-93. Part 9, Foreign Policy and Expansion. Augustus's foreign policy combined aggressive expansion with strategic caution. While he presented himself as bringing peace, the Pax Romana rested on military dominance, and Augustus spent much of his reign extending and securing Rome's frontiers. In Spain, rebellious tribes in the northwest had resisted Roman control for decades. Between 26 and 19 BCE, campaigns finally subjugated the region, incorporating the entire Iberian Peninsula into the empire. This was less glorious than it sounds. The fighting involved brutal mountain warfare against guerrilla resistance, but it eliminated a persistent security threat and opened Spanish mineral wealth to systematic exploitation. The Alps presented both opportunity and danger. Tribes raiding into northern Italy needed to be suppressed, and controlling Alpine passes was strategically important. Between 25 and 14 BCE, a series of campaigns pacified the region. Augustus's stepsons Tiberius and Drusus led many of these operations, gaining military experience and demonstrating their fitness as potential heirs. The Balkans required sustained attention. The region between Italy and Greece, inhabited by various Illyrian and Pannonian tribes, was strategically vital but poorly controlled. Major campaigns between 35 and 9 BCE extended Roman authority deeper into the interior, creating new provinces and establishing a defensible frontier. This expansion wasn't simply aggressive imperialism. Augustus genuinely believed these campaigns made Italy more secure. Egypt became Rome's wealthiest province. After Actium, Augustus made Egypt his personal domain, governed by his appointed prefect. Egypt's grain fed Rome's population, while its gold mines and tax revenues enriched the imperial treasury. Augustus presented himself as pharaoh to Egyptian audiences, showing the flexibility of his rule, traditional republican magistrate in Rome, Hellenistic king in the east. Relations with Parthia, Rome's great rival controlling much of the Middle East, demonstrated Augustus's diplomatic skill. Rather than attempt costly military conquest, Augustus negotiated. In 20 BCE, he achieved a major propaganda victory when Parthia returned the military standards lost by Crassus in 53 BCE and again by Antony in 36 BCE. No battle was fought, but Augustus presented this as a great triumph, commissioning artwork showing Parthians submissively returning the standards. The image mattered more than the reality. Armenia, a buffer state between Rome and Parthia, saw constant maneuvering. Augustus intervened multiple times to install pro-Roman kings, though none of these arrangements proved permanent. His grandsons Gaius and Lucius both died during Eastern missions related to Armenia, suggesting how seriously Augustus took the region's strategic importance. Germany was Augustus's greatest failure. Initially, campaigns led by Drusus between 12 and 9 BCE advanced Roman control to the Elbe River, apparently intending to conquer all of Germany up to that natural frontier. After Drusus's death from a riding accident, Tiberius continued the work. By 6 CE, Germany seemed pacified, and Augustus prepared to create new German provinces. Then disaster struck. In 9 CE, 3 legions under Publius Quinctilius Varus marched into the Teutoburg forest in northern Germany. A chieftain named Arminius, who had served in Roman auxiliary forces and gained Roman citizenship, led a coalition of German tribes in a carefully planned ambush. Over several days of fighting in difficult forested terrain, the Germans annihilated Varus's army. Varus committed suicide. His legion's eagles were captured. Perhaps 15,000 Romans died. The Teutoburg disaster traumatized Augustus. Ancient sources describe him wandering his palace at night, crying out, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions." Rome never seriously attempted to conquer Germany again. The Rhine became the permanent frontier, and Augustus's vision of a frontier at the Elbe died with Varus's legions. Modern historians debate Augustus's strategic vision. Some see a coherent plan to establish defensible frontiers at natural boundaries like the Rhine, Danube, and Euphrates. Others note that expansion was often opportunistic, responding to immediate threats or opportunities rather than following a grand strategy. What is clear is that Augustus significantly expanded the empire, adding more territory than any Roman leader except perhaps Julius Caesar, while generally avoiding overextension, the Teutoburg forest being the exception that proved the rule. Sources **. Adrian Goldsworthy *Augustus, first emperor of Rome *pp. 303-352. Werner Eck, The Age of Augustus *pp. 62-88. Cassius Dio Roman History, books 54-56. Velleius Paterculus Roman History, Book 2, chapters 97-120. Res Gesti Divi Augusti, chapters 26-33. Part 10, Death and Legacy. Augustus's final years were marked by increasing frailty. He had never been physically robust, and by his 70s his health deteriorated noticeably. Yet he continued working, maintaining the administrative routines he had established. In 14 CE, he accompanied Tiberius, now his adopted son and designated successor, to Campania. During the journey, Augustus fell ill with diarrhea and fever. He died at Nola on August 19, 14 CE, at age 75. According to Suetonius, his last words to assembled friends were, "Have I played the part well? Then applaud as I exit." The theatrical metaphor was apt for a man who had spent his entire reign carefully managing his public image. He reportedly also asked Livia if she had enjoyed their marriage and told her to remember their life together. The Senate officially deified Augustus, voting him divine honors and establishing his cult. This was not unprecedented. Julius Caesar had been deified, but Augustus's deification was more systematic. Temples were built to Divus Augustus, priests maintained his cult, and future emperors claimed legitimacy partly through connection to the divine Augustus. Tiberius, as his adopted son, became son of the divine Augustus. Tiberius succeeded smoothly, a testament to Augustus's careful preparation. The powers Augustus had accumulated transferred to Tiberius, and the empire continued functioning with minimal disruption. This peaceful succession was itself revolutionary in Roman history, where transfers of power had typically involved violence. Augustus's Res Gesti Divi Augusti, an account of his achievements inscribed on bronze pillars outside his mausoleum and copied throughout the empire, presented his own carefully curated version of his career. The document lists his offices, military victories, public works, and benefactions, emphasizing his generosity and service to Rome while omitting or minimizing less savory episodes like the proscriptions. It remains a crucial source for historians, while also demonstrating Augustus's sophisticated understanding of propaganda. His legacy was immense and contradictory. He ended a century of civil war, creating a political system that brought unprecedented peace and prosperity to the Mediterranean world. The Pax Romana, though maintained by military force, allowed trade, culture, and economic development to flourish. Provincial populations generally benefited from Roman administration, which provided security, infrastructure, and legal order, even if conquered peoples might question the value of these benefits. Yet Augustus also destroyed the Roman Republic. Whether the Republic was worth saving by 31 BCE remains debated. It had manifestly failed to cope with empire. But Augustus's achievement was fundamentally autocratic. He concentrated power in his own hands, made institutions subordinate to his person, and established a dynastic principle. Later emperors would range from excellent to catastrophic, but all inherited the basic system Augustus created. One man holding supreme power behind a facade of republican institutions. Ancient writers evaluated Augustus through their own political perspectives. Tacitus, writing under later emperors and valuing senatorial independence, was critical, noting that Augustus had seduced Romans into accepting autocracy through gifts and peace. Velleius Paterculus, who served under Tiberius, was adulatory. Cassius Dio, writing in the 3rd century CE when the empire was long established, presented Augustus as a necessary reformer who saved Rome from chaos. Modern historians similarly disagree. Ronald Syme's influential The Roman Revolution portrayed Augustus as a ruthless politician who used propaganda and force to establish a monarchy while cynically maintaining republican appearances. More recent scholars note Augustus's genuine administrative achievements, his relatively restrained use of power compared to later autocrats, and his success at creating a stable, effective government. What remains undeniable is Augustus's historical significance. He transformed Rome from a republic to an empire, established a governmental system that endured for centuries, presided over a cultural golden age, and expanded Roman territory to roughly its maximum extent. The Roman Empire he created would last another 400 years in the West and 1400 in the East. The title, Augustus, would be adopted by countless later rulers. The month of August bears his name. His political settlement influenced governmental structures throughout European history. He died having achieved what few historical figures manage, fundamentally reshaping his society and creating institutions that outlasted him. Whether this was ultimately beneficial remains a question historians continue to debate, but the magnitude of his impact is beyond dispute. Sources: Anthony Everett Augustus, The Life of Rome's First Emperor *pp. 299-323. Werner Eck, The Age of Augustus *pp. 146-159. Suetonius, The 12 Caesars Augustus, chapters 98-101. Tacitus Annals Book 1, chapters 9-10. Cassius Dio, Roman History Book 56, chapters 29-47. Res Gesti Divi Augusti, complete text. Ronald Syme, The Roman Revolution *pp. 439-475.